So in the previous video, we talked about the piriformis, we talked about low back pain, okay? And we discussed piriformis and hamstrings and how that's gonna have an effect on that posterior chain and how it's gonna affect the low back. So before we move on to the shoulders, we wanna spend a little bit of time talking about the anterior chain, all right? So the front half of the body. So if we take a look here, we've got the pelvis again, this time from a front view, and we have the iliopsoas, the hip flexor. So what this muscle is doing is it's raising the knee up, okay? And as that's happening, you can see that it's attached to the front of the femur, high up on the femur, so very poor leverage, but we got a big long muscle that goes up into the hip and it actually attaches to the lumbar spine. So typically, now if we start to lay some of the muscle over that, what we see is most of that muscle is buried deep. So what happens is when we are foam rolling, we're laying on the foam roller or doing something, what we've got is just this little portion of the muscle that's available to us for any kind of active release. So as we're on that foam roller, we're pressing right there, we're high up on the thigh, high up on the thigh just below the waistband or the crest of the hip bone. We're able to hit that muscle, but just a fraction of the actual muscle itself. All right, so we've got something a lot deeper in there that we need to get to. So what we're going to want to do is maybe lay on a lacrosse ball or something and put that into the abdomen, or even lay on our back. And what'll happen is we've got that lacrosse ball like right into that lower quadrant of the back right there. And then what we want to do is, as we're laying on that ball, pull the knee up towards the chest. So as you're doing that, what you can do is you can get some length on there and hopefully get that ball deep enough to start breaking up some of that scar tissue or that adhesion. How is that muscle going to get tight? Well, if we look at the position of the muscle, if you're spending a lot of time seated, at a desk or in a vehicle, what's going to happen is that femur is raised up, you're at that flexed position, and this is in a shortened position. So that muscle is in a shortened position. When you stand up and try and get that leg into extension, the muscle is trying to pull back together. And that's where you're going to get that adhesion. Because of where that muscle is located, it's actually going to take the front of the hips and pull, like it's almost like if your hips were a bucket of water and the hips were laying flat, what's going to happen is the front of the hips are going to get pulled down. We're going to exaggerate that lordotic curve in the low back, and we're going to put more stress then on the low back. Okay, so standing up, moving around, getting a good hip flexor stretch. There's dozens of them out there. We'll go over a few of them later on, but get that foam roll on the front, get into the abdomen with some foam rolling, get the lacrosse ball into your low back while laying on the ground, and start breaking some of that up. Especially if you find that you are on a long commute, you're sitting at a desk for a long period of time, you're sitting behind the wheel of a car for a long time, and then hopefully that'll help loosen things up. Okay, so next step is going to be the shoulder. So stay tuned, comments in the bottom, and we'll go from there. Thanks.